This conference will now be recorded.
Hi everyone, welcome to AWS training program. And today we'll be talking about RDS, that is Relational Database Service, and DynamoDB. Yesterday's class was also about databases. Like we started with Athena, which is a you can say query engine which can execute the query directly on the files stored in S3 without the user has to create the table and decide the schema and all that stuff. After that, we talked about a data warehousing and analytical tool, that is Redshift, which is not serverless, which you have to set up in the beginning, and you have the full control over creating the table, loading the data, updating the existing data, everything you can do over there. Okay. Now we are moving to the next category of databases, that is RDS, Relational Database Service, and DynamoDB, which is of NoSQL data type. So what is SQL, what is NoSQL, and all these things we'll be exploring in today's class, along with the practical exposure to these services. Okay, so let's start with the agenda. So the agenda for today's class is overview of RDS service, launching a RDS instance of type MySQL. You can even launch any other type as well. Multi-AZ, AZ means availability zone. So multi-availability zone for RDS instance, and we'll also talk about RDS read replica. Then we'll talk about the another type of service, that is DynamoDB. We'll try to create a table in DynamoDB. We'll try to add few items in DynamoDB table. We'll talk about read and write capacity, and we'll also talk about read consistency concept. Okay, now let's start with the first one, RDS overview. So suppose you are having your application or your database or everything on premise. Suppose you haven't migrated to the cloud yet, and you may be using any existing relational database service. Suppose MySQL or Oracle, PostgreSQL, Microsoft SQL Server, IBM DB2, or there can be any other service, right? Now you are planning to migrate your application from on-premise to the cloud. What you will do? It's up to you, right? Maybe you want to migrate only application part, application layer, and a database layer you want to keep on premise, because there can be DBA, database administrator, or you have like SQL uh, developer guy and all, right, who are managing your database. So in case you want to migrate your database layer as well to the cloud, there are two ways. Just like you have installed your Oracle or Microsoft SQL server on the on-premise server, similarly, you can launch one server, EC2 instance, for example, and on top of that, you can install your Oracle or PostgreSQL or whatever RDBMS you're using. That's one way. But in that case, right, it's completely on you to control the installation, maintenance, security patches, and cyber attacks. Everything you have to control. What AWS is providing is AWS is providing a service, RDS. That means whatever database you are using on premise, exactly same DB it will provide on the cloud. And the best part is you don't have to worry about installation and maintenance and security. That's not a concern. And it will also provide you easy migration tool. That means you don't have to do anything from scratch. If you are having already hundreds of table in your on premise Oracle, it will migrate the data also, each and everything. In that case, your application is running on cloud as well as your database is available on the cloud, and you don't have to worry about the infrastructure part and all. Okay, so this is very brief about RDS. You can choose from relational or key value or document or in-memory graph type database. Database is not only like table type. There can be any other type of database like key value pair. If you have heard about NoSQL databases, those are like mainly key value concept based. So we will try to create one key value pair database as well, and then you will come to know. AWS continuously monitors your cluster to keep your workload running with automated scaling. As I said, right, if you are installing Oracle on EC2 instance, that means you have to take care of everything. Maybe your load is increasing and EC2 instance server is like small, in that case your query will start failing. But if you're going with RDS, right, AWS will automatically scale the cluster, scale the server as and when required, and you can focus on application development. You can concentrate on writing your SQL queries and all. You don't have to worry about underlying infrastructure, performance, scaling. That you don't need to worry about. And definitely, if you are going with AWS, it will provide you high availability, reliability, and security. That means even if one availability zone is down by any means, AWS will provide you the database connectivity from an alternate availability zone. Your application will still keep on running without any interruption. You can rely upon AWS and all the cyber attacks and any type of attack, right? SQL injections attacks, all these attacks, AWS will protect your database. Okay, so this is all about the theoretical stuff, just to give you an idea like what RDS is all about. In case you're having any doubt, you can ask me. Otherwise, we'll be logging into the AWS console and we'll try to do something practically. Okay, you can see all the RDS databases type like MariaDB is there, Amazon Aurora, Oracle, SQL Server, Postgre, MySQL. All these type of database, if you are using, you can migrate them to Amazon RDS. Your application code change is not required, because suppose your application has a code which is reading and writing the data from suppose Oracle, right? Now we are migrating Oracle from on-premise server to cloud. We are just changing the underlying hardware, or you can say infrastructure. The Oracle will remain as is. So on application side, there is no much change. Maybe server name may be very small change, but not on the coding side. Because earlier your code was pointing to a server which was available on premise. Now your code will be pointing to a Oracle server that is available on AWS. So only URL will change, but your application level changes like reading the data, making some modification in the table data, deleting the table. All this code will not be changed. As is, you can use your code. Okay, so I'm stopping here. In case you are having any doubt till now, you can ask me. Otherwise, we should be good to log in into our AWS account. Let me log in into my account. Okay, that's good. So I will search for RDS because I'm looking for RDS. You can see this one, managed relational database service. Managed means it is managed by AWS. That means you don't have to worry. And this is relational database service. So all those DB we were talking about like Oracle, Microsoft SQL Server, IBM DB2, all these are relational database. Okay, so let's click on that. So as of now, if you click on databases, I think there won't be any database. Okay, that's good. We'll click on create database. There are two ways to do it. Either you go with standard create, you set all the configuration option, including one for availability, security, backup, and maintenance. I mean, it will give you the option which availability zone you want to launch, whatever security you want, how frequent you want to take the backup, like once a day or maybe every 8 hours. That means 3 times a day, right? You can choose all those things, or you can go with easy create. As the name indicates, as per the best practices, it will configure your settings, and at the same time it is giving you the flexibility. I mean, it will create it for you, but later on if you feel that I need to change some setting, you can always go back and edit your settings. That you can do. Okay, let's go with standard create so that we'll come to know about few things that we can do. So what type of database you are having on premise, because similar type you can convert, right? So MySQL Aurora, that is provided by AWS, or MySQL MariaDB Postgre Oracle. I would say let's go with Oracle. Okay, and we'll go with Amazon RDS. Just give me a moment. I think MySQL is open source. I think we should go with that one, just to avoid any type of cost or anything, because MySQL is an open source. Anyone can install that. Show versions that support multi-AZ DB cluster. Show version that support Amazon RDS optimized writes. Version you can select from here. Okay, so which MySQL version you want to install, that's completely up to you. Suppose in case you are already having some application and that is running on a particular version of MySQL, let's go with that. So I'm going with the latest one at this point of time. What type of template you want to use, production or dev and test and free tier? So for learning purpose you can go with free tier, that would be a better idea. Availability and durability. Okay, so we didn't select something like this one, show version that support multi-AG and all, right? So otherwise you can select from here, or maybe I think for free tier, right, it won't allow you for going with multi-AG. Multi-AG means it will launch the database server in multiple availability zone. In case of one availability zone is down or not accessible due to any reason, it will provide you the access to alternate region. But right now, as we are going with free tier, these options are not available. Okay, but you can understand that in case you are going with the real requirement and you are working in a project, it will give you the flexibility that you want to go with a single availability zone or multi availability zone. Okay, so let's come down. DBA instance identifier. I mean, it's nothing but a name of your RDS instance. You can give anything. I would say my first RDS DB. Okay. After that, username and password. It's up to you. I am giving master username as admin. You can change if you want. And password. Either you go with auto generate or you can create your own. So I will give very simple admin at the rate 123. Admin at the rate 123. Okay. After that, what type of you can say server, because ultimately behind your database there will be some server running, right? So you can go with whatever is the minimum one. So two CPUs, 1 GB RAM, network 100 Mbps, T4Z, T4, two vCPU, 1 GB RAM. I think both are similar only. Okay. Storage type. So where exactly it will be storing your tables data, that also you can choose. Allocate storage, will go with smaller one. You can see this minimum value is 20 GB, so 20 GB should be good. We won't be loading any much data, right? So it's okay, 20 GB should be good. Storage auto scaling, there's an option. We are using in my project currently, because many teams are working together. I mean 5 to 6 teams are there. They are sharing the RDS instance. That means there are high chances that our RDS instance is approaching its storage capacity. In that case we have done some settings that as soon as it will approach your capacity, it will be increased by something. At this point of time, since we are going with the, you can say, our learning purpose and training purpose, right, in this case it's not required, so I will disable that. Otherwise you can understand like how to use this auto scaling. Okay. Next is compute resource. What is that? Choose whether to set up a connection to a compute resource of this database. Setting up a connection will automatically change connectivity setting, so that don't connect only to a computer source. Don't set up a connection to a computer source for this one. You can manually set up a connection to a computer source later. Set up a connection to EC2 computer source for this database. Okay, whatever is the default settings, right? Let's go with that. IPv4 is good. Dual stack means it will provide you both IPv4 and IPv6, but IPv4 is good. We can go with that. VPC ID, because we have only one VPC, it will automatically take. And after that, you can create some subnet group. What is subnet group? Subnet group is like combination of multiple subnets, because as we talked about, like it will be launching in multiple availability zones and all, right? So you can, it will automatically create it for you. And you can see here, public access, yes or no. In case your RDS instance need to be accessed within AWS, for example, your application is also deployed on AWS, and your application will be interacting with your DB. That means you need internal access. Public access is not required. But in the case, suppose your application is running out of AWS and you are only migrating the database part. That means your database need external connectivity. It needs the public access. So it depends upon your requirement. You can go with public access, yes or no, as per the need. There is another setting, security group. Either you choose existing one. I think there is no security group created for this purpose. You can click here and provide some name, RDS underscore SZ. Okay, availability zone, no preference. In that case, it will automatically launch, or you provide, suppose US East 1B. In that case, it will be launching inside that. That's all. There is another concept, create an RDS proxy, but you don't need to go into that detail. So basically, as we discussed in the beginning, right? If you want to select few things by yourself, if you want to configure your entire DB by yourself, you go with this option like standard create. Or if you want to do it quickly, simply go with easy create, and it will create it for you quickly. Okay. So I think passwords are not matching. Let me put again. Oh, it's not matching. Huh? Invalid password. Why invalid? I'm using admin 123. I think it will not take. Let me change something. Why it's still not taking? Let me click on create. We'll see. It is not saying password mismatch, right? It is. I don't know what is that. Cannot contain any of the following. At the rate. Okay, okay, okay. It's failing because of this one. I provide at the rate. Okay, hold on. Okay, that's good. Okay, so you can see here under the database list, it's creating this database, and you can see the type MySQL, and this availability zone it will be launching. Size is dbt3 micro, status is creating, and all that detail. One more thing I will tell you is, you can stop the DB, it will stop, but In RDS there is a setting. I don't know why AWS has done that. It will automatically start your RDS instance after 1 week. That means stopping will not help. In EC2 instance, if you are stopping the instance, that is okay because it will not charge you anything. You can keep your instance in stopped state for months and it will not charge you anything. But in case of RDS, even if you are stopping the database, after 1 week it will automatically start and then it can charge something to you. Although we are going with the free tier, but still, once you are done with your practical, right, it's advisable to delete your instance. So I'm coming back to here, and as per the screenshot you can see that I have done easy create so that it will not ask you these many things. But in case you want to get more detail, you can go with standard create as well. Okay, so these are the screenshot which will help you to do set up all this thing. So let me take a pause here. In case you are having any doubt till now, you can ask me. Any doubt, Sai Teja?
No doubt, Neeraj.
Okay, that's good. Let me come back to PDF. Okay, these things we already talked about. Next is multi-AZ deployment. Although with free tier, multi-AZ deployment is not available, but still you should know like what's the purpose of multi-AZ. Multi-AZ means you will have the same server running in two different availability zones. One will be the primary database server and second will be secondary server. And this will be done with the help of like your Route 53. You can see this. This symbol is for Route 53. So Route 53 will redirect your request to the primary M for master database. And every change you make here, you are inserting a new data, you are updating the existing data, or you even if you are deleting some data, right? Every single change will be replicated to the slave as for slave, or you can say secondary, master and secondary. Okay, so this secondary is standby connection. That means it is available, it is ready for service, but none of the connection is coming to this one because primary server is running perfectly fine. But at any point of time, if your primary server goes down, if your master databases goes down, your Route 53 is smart enough because it will keep on checking the health status of master and slave both. And as soon as it will come to know that your master server is down, master server is not accessible, it will start redirecting your request to the slave database, and both are equally capable. It will definitely add cost to your company because you are running two servers at the same time, but that depends upon the requirement. If your client says, if your company is okay to pay additional amount, but they want that okay, none of the clients should face any connectivity issue, none of the orders should get dropped because of a connectivity issue, because suppose you are running an e-commerce website, so you don't want to lose any order and all, right? In that case, you can go with this type of architecture, master and slave architecture, and route 53 will help you to redirect the request to appropriate running database server. Okay, so any doubt on this slide? Hemant, ready? Any doubt from your side?
No, sir.
Okay, that's good. Let's move to the next one. Next one is RDS read replica. As the name indicates, it is a replication of your database, but that's the read version only. That means if your primary is down, definitely your read replica cannot work as a primary, because in case your application is writing some data or updating the existing data, it won't be able to help you that because it's a read replica, it's a read copy. In that case, you may be thinking, what's the benefit? The benefit is sometimes we have few applications like reporting application or a BI application, business intelligence, right? Those services only interested to read the data. They are not making any changes. They read the data from database and they do some type of analytics on that. They are generating some type of reports and displaying on some dashboard, right? In that case, what we do is, suppose your reporting tool is pointing to the main server, primary server. It may get response little late because suppose there are many more read and writes are happening. Mainly writes are happening, so that can make your primary server slower. In that case, what you can do is you can create a read replica, and there will be separate URL. For primary server, there will be separate URL, and for your read replica, there will be separate URL. So for reporting application who just want to read the data, you provide the URL for read replica. It will be faster for them because no one is writing data into this database. This is a read copy. In that case, reporting services, right, they won't face any delay or any connectivity issue because they are not connecting to primary. Rather, they are connecting to the read replica. At the same time, other application who want to read as well as write, they can point to the primary. And there will be asynchronous replication between primary and read replica. Asynchronous means there can be little delay, but that is still okay because for reporting application, right, it does not, it does not make much difference. Suppose some data is little bit here and there, for example, scoreboard, right? Suppose your current score is 67 runs, but suppose it's showing you the previous 1 second, maybe 66, it's still okay, right? If you are displaying some scoreboard on a dashboard on some mobile app, and suppose it is just 1 second old, it is still okay. There is no harm in that. In such cases, you can go with read replica concept. So there are two concepts. One is multi-AZ, in which both server are equally capable. Both server can fulfill your read and write requirement. In case you have only read type of requirement, then you can create a read replica that would be cheaper as compared to multi-AZ, and you can still fulfill your reporting type of requirements. Okay, so I'm stopping here for 2 minutes. In case you are having any doubt till now, you can ask me. Akshay Thakur, any doubt from your side? Okay, seems like there is no doubt. So we'll be moving to the next database. So till now we talked about RDS, that was relational database, where there is a concept of database, tables, columns, and RDBMS, relational database management system, right, has a concept that you should know your table definition in advance. Suppose you are planning to create employee table, you should know what are the columns there. Maybe employee ID, first name, last name, department, salary, designation, manager name, joining date, something, right? But sometime you may have a requirement where the schema is not clear or schema is not fixed. In advance, you may not know like how many column will be there. Column definition may change over time. In that case, instead of SQL, we can go with NoSQL. Although NoSQL word, right, it seems it's opposite of SQL, but that's not true. NoSQL mainly stands for not only SQL. That means you cannot only, you cannot only do SQL, but extra from the SQL. That means whatever things you can do in SQL, you can do here also. But whatever things which you cannot perform in SQL, like dealing with unstructured data, that you can do here. That means it is something beyond SQL. There are many databases which is providing the NoSQL type of features. So you can see few more things like it is a key value concept database. It is a NoSQL database with high single digit millisecond performance at any scale. If you will provide the key, it will immediately provide the value, irrespective of you have millions or billions of rows in the table. It's very fast. And it can handle structured and unstructured data. As we discussed, right, that it is something beyond SQL. SQL can only deal with structured data, But this NoSQL can deal with structured as well as semi-structured or even unstructured data. The good part is it does not require a fixed table schema. In the beginning, you don't have to declare that my table has 5 columns or my employee ID is a numeric and my first name is alphanumeric. Nothing you have to worry about. At runtime, you can change it. So you don't need a fixed table schema, fixed table definition. That's not required. And different rows can have different number of columns, unlike SQL. Very, very interesting concept. In SQL, suppose your employee table has 10 columns, for example. That means every single row will have 10 columns. Employee ID, first name, last name, department, designation, salary, all these things. Second row will also have the same. Maybe some value can be null. Suppose for one of the employee, there is no department information. Might be he has recently joined, there is no department allocated, still fine. But there will be null or blank something, something, right? But in case of NoSQL, it is possible that different rows can have different number of columns. You may think like, how is it possible? But I will show you practically. So one row may have 10 columns and second row will have only 2 columns and third row again have 50 columns. That is completely possible. And that's why NoSQL is capable of dealing with unstructured data as well, because there is no fixed structure. There is no fixed thing that every single row will have 10 values. It's not like that. Different rows can have different values, so they can fit into different number of columns. And how that works, that we will be talking about in upcoming slides. Okay, I am stopping here again. In case you want to ask something about this slide, you can ask me, otherwise we'll be moving to the next slide. Okay, I think it's time to do the practical, so I will be going back here, and what I will do is I will delete this one, because in my last batch it kept on running for few days, and this time I don't want to do that mistake. So snapshot is not required, this one is also not required. delete, delete, type delete me. Okay, no, okay, that's good. So you can see now the current status of your database is deleting. It will take some time, so let it delete. In the meantime, we'll go with DynamoDB. I will duplicate this so that we can verify whether this RDS instance was actually deleted or not. Okay, coming to DynamoDB, you can see this managed NoSQL database. First of all, it's managed by AWS, so server side and all these things you don't have to worry about, and it is of type NoSQL. NoSQL is a different type, SQL is a different type. So we'll click on DynamoDB and we'll try to create some table. Okay, so there is no table as of now, and we'll click on create table. Table name, anything, suppose employee. Partition key. Partition key is nothing but, as I said, right, it's a key value concept. Some key should be there which can uniquely identify your row. For example, employee, I can say employee ID is a unique key because there can be thousands or millions of employee, but two employees should not have the same employee ID. Employee ID is something which is unique for every single employee. So let's select employee ID. Employee ID type. Let's keep it numerical. So we'll take number. Okay. There is a sort key that is optional. Sort key will help you. Suppose you want to list down some employees based upon department, based upon date of joining, based upon date of year of joining, or there can be different verticals in the company, there can be different country based also, right? That's still optional. If you don't want to provide it, it's completely fine. So let's go with this one only. We'll provide employee ID, that is the type is number, and let's go with the default setting. So you can say there are some read capacity, write capacity, auto scaling. I will explain about all this thing. So we are going with the default settings and tags, as you know, not the technical stuff, so it's okay. We'll click on create table. So what did I provide? I did not provide any schema, right? I did not provide that there is a first name, last name, salary, designation, nothing. I simply provided only one, you can say key, which you can call it as a primary key or partition key or anything, but only one thing I provided. Apart from that, whatever you want to add at runtime, maybe for first row, you want to add first name, last name, department. You can do that. For the second row, you say that there is no last name, only first name is there, salary is there, and one more detail designation is there. You can do that. Let's try that. So this is my employee table. Status is active, primary key employee ID, and let's click on that. Okay. So now, okay, what is that? Let me close this. Zero count, zero, zero, everything is zero. Okay. Now explore data items. There is no explore because there is no data as of now. Let me add first. So backup export action create item, you can see this one. So in DynamoDB, right, we don't call it as a row, we call it as an item, but ultimately you can compare with the row in RDBMS. So click on create item. Okay, employee ID is definitely required, that's mandatory. You have to provide employee ID. I will say 1. Okay, and along with employee ID, what details you want to add, you can click here add new attribute of type what, string. Okay, so as we did not specify any schema, we did not specify any column name, it's up to you, you can provide it runtime. I will give first name and I will provide here Neeraj. Okay, suppose I want to add one more of type string, maybe last name, the value is Kumar. Okay, that's good. I will click on create item. So I have added one item into my table, or in simple words, you can say I have added one row into my table. Let's try to add one more. Okay, so let's click on create item. Employee ID is again mandatory. I will provide 2 and add new attribute that can be different from the first row. As I said, every single row can have different number of columns and different type of columns. First row I added employee ID, first name, last name. For this one, let's add first name, but I will not add last name. Okay, first name. I will put it here Hemant. Okay, add one more attribute of type string. I would say department. Let's keep it small to keep it simple. Department. I would say AWS. And maybe I would say one more data type of type number. Maybe I would say age. Let's keep it something here 28. Okay, create item. Did you notice one thing? Every single row I am adding, I have the full control. I can add anything. I am not bound to any schema that okay, I have to provide first name, last name. No, whatever you want to provide, whatever you want to skip, that's completely up to you. You can add 50 attributes for one employee, and you can add only 2 attributes for the second employee. That's completely fine. Okay, now this was only about adding the data. Now let's query. You can see here scan means scanning the entire table. I would say you can say like select star from table. So let's try that. We will do run, and you can see here, let me make it little bigger. You can see now employee ID is 2, age 28, department AWS, first name Hemant. There is no last name because you didn't provide. For this employee, employee ID is 1, you didn't provide any age, didn't provide any department, but first name is Neeraj, last name is Kumar. Although it looks a little different, right? Because in RDBMS, you have to provide some value. You can provide blank, you can provide null, but definitely if there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if there are 5 columns in the table, that means you have to provide 5 values. But here that is not the case. Different rows can have different number of columns. That is the beauty of NoSQL database. And another benefit is it is very fast because it is primary key based. If there are million of rows and you want to filter out for a particular employee, it can quickly provide you the detail. Okay, so this is all about how to create a table, how to add item, or you can say add a row, how you can add different attributes, and how you can query your table. So in case you're having any doubt, you can ask me. Otherwise, we'll be moving to the next slide. Okay, so how to scan a DynamoDB table we have talked about. There are other concepts like read capacity and write capacity. We'll talk about that as well. But before that, I would like to take a pause here. And in case anyone is having any doubt, you can ask me. Any doubt, Hemant Kumar?
Hemant Saiteja, any dots?
No, Nirav.
Okay, no worries. We'll proceed with the next one. Okay, so let's move to the next one, that is read and write capacity. Okay, so read and write capacity, as the name indicates, how many reads you want to perform every second and how many writes you want to perform every second. As of now, I am doing it manually. So definitely I cannot perform 50 reads or 50 writes per second because I'm entering the values, first name, nearest, this one, that one. But you can do all these things programmatically as well. Suppose you have a web application and from there user is updating some details, address, phone number, uh, or any other detail, right? And you want to update those details in the DynamoDB table. Maybe in multi games, online games and all that stuff, right? Score is continuously increasing and all that stuff. You want very fast retrieval of the score and very fast updation of the score, and maybe many users are playing and many updates are coming in a single second, right? In that case, you can increase it because the more you will increase, right, it will be costing you more. That means we cannot blindly go with 50 read and 50 write capacity. That's not good, because suppose you are not utilizing that capacity, then unnecessarily you will be charged for that. So it depends upon your requirement, and it will give you the complete flexibility. It will give you the complete calculation over there. Okay, so let me go back. What we can do is, let me see, edit capacity, the very first option, right? Go to action, edit capacity, and it will estimate your uses as well. Okay, so this is auto scaling. Auto scaling means, right now suppose minimum capacity is 1, and as soon as this load will start increasing, when your load is reaching 70% of the capacity, it will increase. If you want to make it off, you can do that. You can do like this. Similarly, write capacity also, you can give it auto scaling or you can go with the off. In off, right, you can specify that, okay, I want to go with 5 read per second and I want to go with 5 write per second. This is the estimate window. If you want to estimate, right, you can see here. So if you are going with 5 read capacity units and 5 write capacity unit, the estimated cost would be $2.91 per month. I think not a big amount. It's still okay. $3, right? But it depends upon your application. If millions of users are accessing your website at any point of time, definitely you cannot go with 5 read and 5 write capacity. Let's try to change it. 50. And suppose read is less, I will go with 20. I mean, write is less, read are more. So I will go with 50 read capacity, 20 write capacity. The cost increases to $40, 14 per month. Okay, so this again depends upon your requirement. You can go with a small number, and as and when it will increase, right, you can go with that, or you can go with this one also, auto scaling. You can set up something like your capacity is increasing 80%, then it should increase. Dynamically adjust provisioned throughput capacity on your behalf in response to actual traffic pattern. Okay, so maybe you go with, let's take an example. You start with 10, okay, and maximum you want to make it 50. So what it will do is it will start with 10 read capacity per second, but as soon as it will hit the target 80%, that means when it will start getting 8 read requests per second, that means you are about to reach the capacity, then it will increase little bit. Instead of 10 it will make it 20 or 15. Then when you are crossing 80% capacity of 15 or 20, it will further increase, but it will not increase blindly. When it is about to reach 50, it will not go beyond that. Otherwise, as we discussed earlier, someone can program a bot. The bot can send million of requests to you, and you will be keep on blindly increasing the capacity, ultimately costing you. And those are not the genuine users request. Those are very, you can say, a robotic request, just to fail your application, just to crash your application, right? So definitely there is a protection. You can go with a maximum capacity units here. Similarly, if you want to do the same for write capacity, that can also be done. So I'm coming back to PDF. We talked about read capacity and write capacity. Okay. And you can see this example. So there is a website with the name Duolingo. That's a language related website which provides you the language conversion and all that stuff. And behind the scene, it is using DynamoDB. There are 31 billion items. As you know, items are nothing but rows, right? There are 31 billion rows in your DynamoDB table and 80 different languages. And you see the capacity 24,000 read units per second and 3,300 write units per second. It will be definitely chargeable to you, but the point is DynamoDB is very powerful and very highly scalable service which can provide you very huge number of read and write capacity on demand as and when you require. You don't have to worry about provisioning new server and do I need a downtime, how much time it will take to launch a new server. That is not your headache. AWS will increase or decrease the read and write capacity on the go, on demand, as and when you need it. And definitely they will be charging you for your uses. Okay. So any doubt? Otherwise,
Sai
we'll be moving
Teja.
to the last.
No doubt, no doubt.
Neeraj.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Hemant and others left. So can we stop for today? We can continue
This
tomorrow for
is
this.
this is the last slide, Rob. We'll take 5 more minutes.
Well, sure. No worries. Take your time then. Thank you.
Yeah. So let's move to the next topic, read consistency. As the name indicates, when you are updating something, right, it will be updating in multiple locations. And there are two options: eventually consistent reads, strongly consistent reads. What does it mean? Eventually consistent read means sometime, not always, one out of 100, you can say, you may read the older data. For example, you have updated the score and that score will be updated in one of the server. It also got updated in the second server, but somehow there was a little delay in the third server. That means the people who are reading the data from the third one might get some old 1 second of delay or something like that. If you're okay with it, you say, okay, if people in few regions are getting older score, only 1 second older, I'm not talking about 10 minutes older, only 1 second older, you are saying it's still okay. So you go with eventually consistent read, that will be less chargeable. But if you say that, okay, this is my stock market and I don't want that people in one country are looking at this rate and people in different country are looking at a different rate, and then people start fighting, hey, what is this one and all that, right? If that is the case, go with strongly consistent read. In that case, AWS will charge you more, but it will make sure that it will either update to all the server or it will not update to any of the server. Data will be same on every single server. That is strongly consistent read. Okay, so in the table setting you can choose whichever you want as per your need. Definitely strongly consistent is more costly and eventually consistent is less costly. Okay, so this is about read capacity, and with this slide we are done for the day. I hope you understood little bit about the two services, that is DynamoDB and RDS. Please take your time to go through the recording, go through the PDF, try to do it practically on your account, and you can always get back to me either during the class or on the WhatsApp in case you need any help. Okay, so that's all for today. Thank you.
Yeah.